Although they appeared on screen together in The Great Escape, James Garner and Steve McQueen's relationship was everything but amicable behind the scenes. There was no space for interpretation when Garner, who is famous for his charisma and unwavering professionalism, once summed up McQueen, "There was no acting in him, he was just a showman." Not only did this scathing review focus on McQueen's acting, but it also highlighted larger problems that shaped his career and life. Although McQueen worked hard to project the image of the perfect cool man, his antics on set frequently caused problems and strained relationships with his co-stars. Why did Garner single out McQueen, Hollywood's king of cool, and accuse him of something? In order to grasp Garner's perspective, it is necessary to delve into their experience working on The Great Escape. The picture was a groundbreaking undertaking for its 1963 release year because it was based on a real story from WWII. Garner portrayed Hindley, the Scrounger, and McQueen, Captain Virgil Hilts, the Cooler King. The Magnificent Seven catapulted McQueen to stardom, but he soon became conceited as a result of his success. He insisted on making his characters the showstopper in every scene. The Great Escape script was something that McQueen despised upon first reading it. Why? The hero wasn't someone he portrayed. He was not pleased by that. The entire production was ruined by his ear-piercing complaints. He went so far as to threaten to leave if his position was not altered. Without McQueen, director John Sturges could finally move on from the challenges of directing an ensemble cast. However, it was rejected by the studio. McQueen's fame was too great to let slip. In an effort to win over McQueen, they included motorbike stunts in his role, even though they weren't relevant to the actual plot. Hollywood made up the famous scene where Hilts rides his motorcycle over a barbed wire fence only to make McQueen pleased. After failing to complete the jump during practice, McQueen still refused to try it himself. The renowned stunt was actually performed by his stunt double, Bud Eakins. The impact of McQueen's demands on the rest of the crew was later disclosed by Garner. For McQueen, joining a team was never an option. He yearned for the limelight. His portrayal as a macho idol rather than genuine acting was what Garner accused him of being. The kiss of death, according to Garner, is that you could always see him acting. On the other hand, Garner exemplified absolute professionalism. While McQueen made $87,500 from the picture, he never allowed his salary control his actions, earning $150,000 instead. For the part of Hindley, Garner drew on his own experiences as a veteran of the Korean War. Actually, his military tenure was marked by ingenuity, which was reflected in his moniker, the Scrounger. When things got out of hand, Garner also intervened as a mediator. He eventually met with McQueen to air his complaints. McQueen said he was not a fan of the original screenplay because it made him appear insincere and unheroic. Garner was instrumental in calming nerves and keeping the production on schedule. The Great Escape wasn't the only show where McQueen's actions caused problems. Several of his co-stars experienced ego clashes due to his enormous celebrity power. He had a falling out with Paul Newman on set of The Towering Inferno over their respective screen times and the placement of their names on promotional materials. Because both performers insisted on having leading roles, the studio had to get inventive to accommodate them. The horizontal placement of McQueen's name was lower than that of Newman's and vice versa. To ensure that Newman didn't have more lines than him, McQueen also tallied them in the script. Reportedly, he went ballistic upon learning that Newman had 12 more lines. This happened more than once. Yul Brynner was on the verge of breaking down on set of The Magnificent Seven because to McQueen's shenanigans. McQueen would subtly draw attention to himself by moving items or adjusting his hat in the background, thus stealing scenes. Because of his dominant personality, Brynner was enraged by McQueen's strategies. Although McQueen's image of defiance won him many admirers, it caused tension among his co-workers. According to Garner, McQueen put effort into cultivating this reputation, but it was all an act. A real actor, Marlon Brando, might be tough at times, but according to Garner, McQueen was merely a movie star. Authenticity, whether on or off screen, was important to Garner. Therefore, this difference was significant to her. He thought McQueen failed as an artist and alienated those close to him because he prioritized appearances over substance. After the epic escape, Garner and McQueen were still friends despite all the problems. This was probably greatly influenced by Garner's laid-back personality. It seems like Garner was unfazed by McQueen's actions in contrast to others. As he battled terminal cancer in his later years, McQueen allegedly sought forgiveness from some of his adversaries. Among them was Yul Brynner, with whom he had a bitter feud many years ago. In large part due to the magnetic personalities and outstanding acting in The Great Escape, the film has stood the test of time. Motorbike sequences starring McQueen became legendary. The ensemble cast was given more nuance by Garner's performance as Henley. Charles Bronson and Donald Pleasance, among others, brought a level of authenticity to their portrayals by drawing on their real-life experiences in the conflict. The film's popularity was unaffected by the drama that occurred behind the scenes. Rather, it contributed to the legend of the golden age of Hollywood, when legendary artists battled despite their enormous personalities. One of the most scathing criticisms of Steve McQueen ever delivered was by James Garner. You can't ignore the fact that McQueen's imperfections contributed to his charisma. In real life, he was a complex human being who battled to control his ego in tandem with his brilliance, ambition, and movie persona as the coolest dude ever. The similarities between James Garner and Steve McQueen, two starring men from Hollywood's golden age, become immediately apparent upon closer inspection. It would appear that McQueen has all the qualities that would make him the ultimate cool guy: style, swagger, and rough cool. On the other hand, another tale unfolded behind the scenes. Despite his many film credits, McQueen struggled with self-esteem issues and an innate desire to dominate throughout his life. It was easier said than done, but he appeared to be the ideal man every man aspired to be. Instead, James Garner stood out in real life and on screen with an air of subtle dignity and unassuming power. Garner is the Hollywood icon you've been searching for. Consider McQueen's distinctive charisma. His silent intensity and gloomy faces were the showstoppers in Bullitt and The Great Escape, among other blockbusters. However, a darker side of that focus seeped into his personal life. You may relate to McQueen's difficult upbringing, but he didn't deal with his pain in a healthy way. The accounts of his life present a disturbing image. Anger, domineering, and abusiveness were common traits of his. You can't get one terrifying tale out of his marriage out of your head. When his wife Nell went to see him on set for Le Mans, she was surprised to see a swarm of women trailing after him. McQueen chose not to dispute it. Although he acknowledged being unfaithful, he chose to blame her instead of taking responsibility for his actions. He allegedly forced her to take narcotics at one time, held a pistol to her temple, and coerced her into admitting to a liaison that never existed. It's difficult to square that look with the McQueen portrayed in movies, who exudes an air of effortless assurance. However, it is the point. He hid behind his carefully constructed impression of coolness, which betrayed his true nature. This aspect of him was evident even in his work connections. Paul Newman and him were famously feuding on the set of The Towering Inferno. Equal billing was sought by McQueen, ensuring that Newman did not have more lines of speech than he actually had by counting them in their scripts. Consider James Garner as an example. Similar hardships befell Garner's childhood. He had a rough upbringing due to his stepmother's abuse. But Garner never let that make him resentful or egotistical. He went in a different direction. He matured into a champion for the underdog, someone who drew on his hardships to help others and the world at large. When it came to the egotistical world of Hollywood, Garner was an anomaly. His generosity and talent were equally well known. Garner would intervene and defend an employee if the director treated them unfairly on production. Everyone, regardless of rank or position, should be treated with dignity according to his beliefs. Plus, Garner didn't have to work on his cool guy persona as McQueen did. It was effortless. His charisma, sense of humor, and self-assurance shone through in his effortless demeanor. Garner was remarkable for the humanity and tenderness he offered to his characters, whether in Maverick or the Rockford Files. Both men were deeply passionate about cars and racing, but Garner brought a unique perspective to the table. Although McQueen's driving abilities are frequently praised, Garner was also competent. If anything, Garner could have competed in Formula One and defeated some of the drivers of that era, according to professional racing coach Bob Bondurant. In Grand Prix X, Garner drove the car himself and the results were jaw-dropping. As a whole, the film is entertaining and exciting, a lively ode to racing that seems light years ahead of McQueen's Le Mans, which many have panned as dull and uninteresting. However, Garner stands out due to his exceptional treatment of others in his immediate vicinity. He was one of the few Hollywood actors to be married to the same woman for 58 years. Lois, in real life, he was just as charismatic. Naturally, not everything in McQueen's life was negative. His swagger belied his times of vulnerability when his pain was plainly visible. The circumstances surrounding his untimely demise are sorrowful. It's impossible not to consider the possibility that he might have evolved over the years. However, he frequently allowed his insecurities to control him, resulting in harmful outbursts toward others. Something happened during their time in Hollywood that really made an impression. McQueen, who has a chronic case of insecurity and suspicion, reportedly suspected that his wife was having an affair with James Garner. Garner showed no signs of aggression or defensiveness when questioned. Rather, he stated plainly that he wasn't evil but rather insecure. Just that one statement sums up Garner perfectly. There was every justification for his anger or offense, yet he opted for grace instead. He recognized McQueen's tough man facade for what it really was, an attempt to hide his weaknesses. It's not hard to understand why McQueen's likeness is so popular. There was no denying his star power. He possessed the sunglasses and leather jackets. However, Garner emerges as the clear winner upon deeper inspection. He embodied the coolest qualities: integrity, kindness, and strength, not merely an appearance. Therefore, you should consider twice before donning those McQueen-style shades in an attempt to imitate one of these Hollywood greats. You should instead learn from Garner's strategy. The most important kind of cool is the kind that makes other people feel valued, so be confident, be polite, and be yourself. Despite a swirl of controversy, health problems, and an enduring reputation, Steve McQueen's life ended abruptly and tragically. In real life, McQueen's last years were significantly more dramatic than his on-screen character. On the contrary, they showed a guy whose health was deteriorating and who was fighting for survival. A persistent cough in 1978 was the first symptom. Things only got worse once he stopped smoking. The medical staff was rushed to find a solution as the patient began to experience difficulty breathing. The devastating news of multiple mesothelioma arrived in late 1979, following his completion of filming The Hunter. There is a strong correlation between asbestos exposure and this rare and severe cancer. The news was terrible for McQueen, but he refused to go peacefully. He blamed his experience removing asbestos from pipes aboard a troop ship during his stint in the Marines for developing cancer. Some people thought it might have been asbestos from racing suits or perhaps even from film set insulation. Unconventional remedies were sought by McQueen as the sickness progressed. He went to Mexico for treatments including live cell injections, coffee enemas, and the controversial medicine laetrile because he would not accept the fact that there was no solution. Medically speaking, none of it made sense, but McQueen held on to the possibility that it could. He spent a fortune, up to $40,000 monthly, on the therapies. Money, though, was of little concern to him in that moment. The disease had spread throughout his body by the time he got back to the U.S. in late 1980. His neck and belly both acquired tumors, with one particularly large tumor weighing 5 pounds. To remove the tumors, McQueen had a dangerous operation in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, despite all medical advice to the contrary. He was too feeble to handle such a last-ditch effort. Just hours after the operation, on November 7, 1980, he passed away. His age was a mere 50. With his passing, McQueen ushered in a new age. Tragically, the King of Cool passed away too soon, which devastated his legion of fans and reignited their fascination in his life and work. His impact has only intensified with the passing of time. With streets named after him and induction into the Motorcycle Hall of Fame, McQueen is a living embodiment of strong, independent spirit. His impact was so great that he was posthumously honored for his work in bringing attention to asbestos-related illnesses. James Garner's life, in contrast to McQueen's startlingly early death, is a tale of immense contrast. Garner lived to be 86 years old, decades longer than McQueen. However, he was not immune to health problems either. After years of strenuous roles and stunts, his knees needed repeated surgery. In the early 2000s, he had both knees replaced. After that, Garner had quintuple bypass heart surgery in 1988, which was a huge risk for her health. Garner chose stability and resilience over McQueen's perpetual life in the pandemonium. Even after doctors informed him of the risks, he waited until later in life to stop smoking. Strokes and deteriorating health in his latter years didn't stop him from continuing till his death in 2014. The enormous display of affection and respect from Garner's peers upon his passing was quite remarkable. The words were beautifully expressed by Clint Eastwood, who had worked with Garner before and was familiar with him. Thanks to Garner, Steve McQueen and I were able to get in. James Garner was a friend and an inspiration to Tom Selleck, who praised Garner as a mentor. Collaborator on Murphy's romance Sally Field compared him to a diamond, describing him as a unique treasure amidst an industry rife with egos. It wasn't simply Garner's lengthy career or his ability to play physically demanding parts, despite physical decline, that made him unique. His grace and sensitivity shone through. Married to his wife Lois for nearly 60 years, he was a family man. In real life, he was a staunch advocate for civil rights, a role model for younger actors, and an equal opportunity employer and employee. Garner maintained an air of unwavering dignity even as his health deteriorated in his latter years. The lives he touched and the work he created ensure that his legacy will endure. A statue of the guy who brought genuine charisma and charm to every part he portrayed is in Norman, Oklahoma. The gulf between McQueen and Garner goes well beyond the differences in their professions and character traits. It shows in the way they dealt with death. McQueen, who was always defiant, battled his sickness with all his might, even as he made more risky decisions. On the other side, Garner dealt with his health problems in a quiet but determined manner, learning to adapt and persevere. One can't not but speculate about the possibilities that would have arisen had McQueen lived a longer life. Have you thought he would have matured? Achieved the same level of fulfillment that Garner did once he reconciled with his demons? On the other hand, would he have remained defined by his fears and need for control? Without a doubt, the Hollywood landscape is forever changed by these two individuals. Both McQueen and Garner will be remembered for their distinctive style and outstanding performances, but Garner's reputation will be brighter for his honesty and the way he treated people. Both were fascinating public characters, but they saw the world very differently. They were complementary but distinct sides of the same coin. As McQueen shone brightly and quickly as a troubled celebrity, Garner proved that being honest and nice could be just as appealing. Reflecting on their lives, it becomes evident that their legacies extend far beyond the roles they performed or the vehicles they owned. Their decisions, personalities, and the ways they have inspired generations after their death are the topics of these biographies.